smallf.com. Jose Mendoza, who I've talked to. Yes, I've talked to him. Very thick accent, but I've talked to him. He appeared on the Power Hour radio show, also has a case. Do you know that he tried to call my local police department for me? To let them know that this really is happening? Do you understand? He called Kennebec County deputies and told them about this. Supposedly, he said. To let them know that this is real and it's really happening to me. Apparently, he used a radiation detection device to identify some directed energy attacks against him and his children. He has also been gang stalked. Now, gang stalked, that's more of on foot. Those are people that harass you, key your car, like they keyed my son's truck, damage your stuff, break into your house, follow you around, pay people to do nasty things, say things in front of you to make you think you're crazy. I am aware of the status of these cases, Rich is saying, or Mike. He says that these folks are pioneers because most people don't realize what's happening and are too drained to intelligently explain what is going on. Drained, yes. That's probably why I was doing drugs. No, just kidding. No, I'm not kidding. I did drugs and I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of swearing. However, would it not be reasonable to conclude that organizations with a documented history of experimenting, torturing, and harassing citizens would use these weapons on people? If that is the case, then it is not also reasonable to conclude that at least some of these claims that weapons are being used on citizens are true? And if that is correct, does this not constitute a severe violation of human rights? Tactics conclusion. It is impossible and unnecessary to explain every variation of harassment. In addition, there are some tactics that are much more subtle that you may experience if you're targeted. Now, you know why some people are driven to suicide? I just said that. These organizers may be more aware of some of your habits than you are. For instance, commonly used routes will be used as avenues for various types of street theater that unfold as you pass through. Also, products such as a specific brand of soap, shampoo, deodorant, etc. that you use will be discontinued or sold out in the stores that you frequent. The neighbors who move in next door to you will have loud motorcycles or cars. Now, I get that. I really do, but I can't speak on that behalf. Oh, I'm just so sore. And then it says here, individually some tactics may not be illegal or very potent, but when combined with each tactic in systematic round-the-clock fashion, day in, day out, they are painful and difficult to prove form of torture. And torture is the act of inflicting excruciating pain as punishment or revenge, as a means of getting a confession or information, or for sheer cruelty. A method of inflicting such pain. Often the pain or suffering caused or undergone, extreme anguish of body or mind agony, to afflict with severe pain of body or mind. That's the Webster's 1997. Seeing if it's still recording because it stops every so often. Why is it used? The organizers have successfully desensitized communities and convinced them that it is okay to violate the civil rights of certain people. This was probably originally done using sex offenders and other undesirables. This may have started out as a system with positive intentions. However, due to lack of ethical oversight, it has become heavily corrupted. This is now basically a parallel justice system and a revenge service that can be used for silent neutralization. There is a list or a database that people are added to who are deemed expendable. It appears that there are several ways a person can be added to this list. I've listed some later in this section. Oh, I have here. Oh, I was just talking about this. Oh, my hands beat red. If the Virtual Government CIA Mind Control Operations in America by Alex Constantine says, the United States of America has not openly declared war on private citizens, but illicit human experimentation and vicious, non-lethal radio frequency assaults have been carried out by agencies within a number of federal institutions for 50 years. And I wrote, if the frequency is too strong, it can break down tissue. I have proof. And I do on my right breast. On my cheeks. Why would I have broken down tissue on the inside of my right breast in one spot? Huh? For what? And then I'm reading on, page 42, he says, I know federal law enforcement and the intelligence community had their problems, like most institutions do. I had also heard scattered stories of people being harassed by government agencies, but I attributed it to their own fault. I figured they must have been some serious troublemakers in order to provoke it. I thought the occasional media leaks were pretty much all there was to it. I trusted that the watchdog media kept those agencies in line and were perhaps even a little intrusive, preventing these agencies from doing their jobs. I believed that these agencies would never spend resources to target innocent people, especially a nobody. I thought that these agencies had better things to do than to waste resources targeting innocent citizens. I was wrong. I never realized that those media leaks were just the tip of the iceberg or how big and organized this corruption was. Then I began to learn about the organized human slavery rings, opium, heroin trafficking, the Golden Triangle, MK Ultra, and current mind control operations, and Operation Northwoods. I'm gonna go off. My Voice to Skull program or script, it started out, you'll hear bits and pieces of it, but if you look on Roy's website or whatever, you can see my testimony on that. I would like to do part 2 with them sometime, but I don't think there's really a need for that because I'm doing my own part 2. I'm just trying to educate people. I'm trying to hopefully help somebody or be able for you to show this to your loved one or someone that cares about you. I'll talk to anybody. I'll show people the things I have. They're organized in my book. So then I'll read on. And then it says, I realized there was a whole community of targeted people screaming out to be heard. Yes, that's what we're doing. That's all I've done for 8 years, 7 years is just scream out. Texted my son, texted my daughter, texted my ex-husband, my cousin Bobby, my Aunt Sandy, my friends on Messenger, my brothers, my sisters, my ex-mother-in-law. I realized there was a whole community of targeted people screaming out to be heard, but stonewalled by the media and human rights organizations, like the UCLA. They don't get. I've called them. They're on my. I got them in my contacts, and they go, "Oh, you need to seek mental health." No, I've already been in mental health, and I've studied mental health, and I've studied all the documentation about this type of program or gang stalking organization, and I'm not mentally ill. Maybe you need to get checked out and realize that this could be happening to you someday, lady. The FBI said that to me every day I called to. I don't know how many times I called the FBI. Thousands. I've been there twice, 3 times. These human rights organizations have received many complaints about organized vigilant stalking, but as of the time of this writing, they have not acknowledged this phenomenon. I can only conclude they have been given stand-down orders, no doubt for reasons of national security. And it says here by Julian McKinney, April 19th, 2006. The subject is directed energy weapons and gang stalking. The investigative journal interviews. She said, the women who are singled out appear to be somewhat too independent, perhaps too intelligent, tend to live alone, tend to pursue professional careers. There's a heavy predominance of those types of women in the TI community. Men are in a smaller proportion and seem to be those who have a sense of self-esteem and pride that seems to invite targeting. Revenge. Cause stalking groups are available as for hire revenge packages. This revenge package is available to any person who has the connections and capital to finance it. There are some very sick, sadistic people with influence in government and industry who can use this system if they think you've done them wrong. This is the equivalent of putting a hit on someone. If this is the reason a person is targeted, he may never know it. They also, if you complained, whistleblowers, they talk about U.S. Postal Services. I used to hear that all the time. It's those postal workers because I know so many people. They used every single thing you could possibly even think of. I mean, like, my spoons went missing. It was bizarre. I mean, like, I thought I was hearing Nick when I was standing in the shed. And those wires, my ex-husband knows something. I know he does. Virtual government CIA mind control operations in America, Alex Constantine said, the objective is to isolate the bothersome informant despite him as incompetent, disloyal, troublesome, mentally unbalanced, or ill. The whistleblower is forced out, frightening workmates and supporters. The assault continues until the target is left discredited, exhausted, in poor health, financially crippled, his career in ruins. Now, you know, when I went to that hospital more than once and told them people that I were afraid that my husband's trying to get me killed, that I was hearing speakers from the walls. I remember, what's her name? She worked at the front desk in registration. And I remember when they let me go, Darla and Terry, they let me go home. I was terrified. I was living at home. That's when I had the restraining order against my ex. And I did that because it was a perfect timing moment, because I could get those papers written up and I would not be interrupted, and he'd have to leave me alone. He'd go to jail. And that's the only thing I could do, because I wasn't going to run away. I sat there and by voice to skull, imagine this. You don't know what's going on. You're going through a divorce, which you did want in the first place. You're living in, you have sick dog. You have no job. No one will help you. So, because my husband said he didn't want me to work. Just get a part-time job and more. You just, be around for Levi. That is the honest to gosh truth. Honestly, it is. And so I didn't work. So then all this happened. I wasn't working. So I had to trying to find a job. I had no money for gas. So I started pawning things. And my husband knew. I called him up and asked him to come over and help me load up the generator. He went and got his stuff from the local pawn shop. I had to give them permission for him to go and give Larry the tickets. Honest to God. Why wouldn't your own husband give you money for some gas when he didn't even want the divorce? He threw the papers in the garbage. I mean, it's just bizarre. Anyway, I'm going to go on. Sorry. Like, my hair is purple. I know I look like crap because I don't feel good. The new COINTELPRO is now legal, according to the ACLU Executive Director Anthony Romero, who was viewed a confidential FBI memorandum. Even peaceful protesters are now being labeled as potential terrorists. Think about what this means. Experimentation. Some known behavioral modification projects include Bluebird, MK Delta, MK Ultra, and MK Ultra. MK Ultra, with 149 sub-projects, was conducted in universities, hospitals, military institutions, and prisons. Some tests included the effects of stress on human beings, including duress, fatigue, torture, drugs, creation of mutations, and a variety of other tests. Under MK Ultra, about 23,000 people were traumatized, but researchers see this as an extremely conservative number. Since many of records have been destroyed, we will probably never know. Most of these people were unwilling and unknowingly experimented on in these institutions, and their lives were basically ruined. Some of these tests were conducted on children. These people will think nothing of sacrificing innocent members of the population and experimenting on people, then covering up their crimes, claiming reason of national security. After studying the history of some of these agencies and learning the facts, it became clear to me that these acts were carried out by monsters misusing their resources and committing crimes against humanity. Labs are apparently no longer necessary, as directed energy weapons can be used at a distance. Targeted people are declined assistance by organizations that have been set up to help victims of torture and mind control. They are routinely labeled mentally ill to discredit them. Several mind control survivors have written books. One MK Ultra survivor named Kathy O'Brien wrote a book with Mark Phillip, former CIA operative, called Access Denied for Reason of National Security. It is a well-documented account of her dealings with the system and the trouble she encountered, people covering up for it, while trying to expose mind control abuses committed against her and her daughter. Her case was thrown out of the U.S. courts for reasons of national security. She and Mark believe the National Security Act of 1947 is being used to cover crimes and should be dismantled. Other reasons. A bad breakup with an ex-spouse who has influence and capital. A target has reported a crime such as pedophile, drugs, where the perpetrator was a member of an organized crime ring with connections. Government or another party attempts to unfairly seize land from owners. Harassment of gays, minorities, or harassment of mentally ill person. Sexual predators may also be targeted. It appears loners are targeted due to their perceived vulnerability. These stalking groups will select a target of convenience just for practice and no other reason. Many people don't know why they're targeting or actually when it began. Just because someone doesn't know why they've been targeted does not mean their claim should be any less credible than someone who does. Microwave mind control. Modern torture and control mechanisms eliminating human rights and privacy. Dr. Ronnie Liana Kildi, former Chief of Medical Officer of Finland. Report September 25th, 1999. Who are the targets? Experimentation with soldiers and prisoners may continue, as well as handicapped children, mental patients, homosexuals, and single women. They are still experimental guinea pigs for electronic and chemical warfare, but today anyone can become a target, even those who invented the system. It almost doesn't matter why it is being done. There is no excuse for the systematic and ongoing torture of a person. Just as a mechanism for mobbing is already in place and waiting to be used, so is the organized stalking mechanism. Remember, this is just for educational purposes. Sorry, you guys, I'm tired and I do not feel good. Am I turning red again? Probably. It's a normal thing with me. So, objectives of the group. We're on page 45 of The Hidden Evil, Mark Rich's book. This is just for educational purposes. I'm just trying to do this for educational purposes to get the word out. This is being done. I am very focused on keeping this going. I have been trying to reach out to my family. My children threw me away again, so because my daughter, it's just bizarre. I barely talked to my daughter in 10 years, 20 years at that. So, which is sad, but there's still time. Okay, this is objectives of the group. This is a very scary topic, but it is what it is. The goal of the campaign is to get you to kill yourself. Do you know that I put a gun to my head at Kimball's place, his pistol? At Jackson's, I swallowed a couple boxes of pills. At John's house, I did the same. I went and bought a bunch of cold pills and took a bunch of them thinking that I'd never wake up. Never happened. That was with John's. That was right before I went to the homeless shelter. And then Jackson's was right after I got out of the homeless shelter. And then after that in 2020, it was, no. Yeah, it was at Kimball's place. He went to go do some stuff, and he always told me where the pistol was in the shotgun because we lived out in the country, and just in case I needed it, I went and I got that thing, and I stuck it right to my head, and I was just bawling. And I know people were watching. I was being surveilled. I'm always on surveillance. I'm either on surveillance by my voice, by what I talk, by what I say, or I'm actually being watched. I don't really give a crap. Okay. The goal of the campaign is to get you to kill yourself. Many of the volunteers who participate in the harassment believe that the objective is to drive the bad guy or girl out of their community. And that is usually the last they will ever see of a person if they're harassed into leaving. However, for the agency that launched the harassment campaign, the goal is to get the targeted person to commit an act of violence, whether suicide or murder, under circumstances which can be plausibly denied by the agency. Many people have tried moving out of state, even out of the country, and the stalking always continues. Microwave harassment and mind control experimentation, Julian McKinney said, Director Electronic Surveillance Project, Association of National Security Alumni. The long-term objective, he's dead now. They killed him. They threw him in prison. Huh. The long-term objectives of these harassment and experimentation campaigns appear to be quite fundamental. 1. Induce of a sense of perverted loyalty toward the very agency engaged in the individual's harassment. 2. Redirect the target individual's feelings of hopelessness, anger, and frustration toward racial and ethnic groups. 3. Force the individual to commit an act of violence, whether suicide or murder, under conditions which can be plausibly denied by the government. Other than that, the objective of the campaign, and this is Mark talking now again. Other than that, this objective of the campaign is to separate a person from friends, family, keep them unemployed, induce homelessness, and reduce the quality of life so much that they suffer a nervous breakdown, cause them to commit suicide, or end up medicated, incarcerated, or institutionalized. Really. 72-hour hold. Incarcerated. I got thrown in jail for running out of gas, and then they let me out the next day because they weren't letting me see the judge. I was homeless. My car blew up. That had a brand new motor. I mean, it's just bizarre. Anyway, that could just be a coincidence, though, right? So then, a major effort will be spent to separate a person from their friends and family. I'm going to emphasize that. A major effort will be spent to separate a person from their friends and families. Attempts will be made to destroy all areas of a person's life with the intent to drive them to suicide. Moving will not stop this terrorism, as it will happen no matter where they live. This is basically an untraceable poison used by elite corporations and the intelligence community. Microwave mind control, modern torture, and control mechanisms eliminated human rights and privacy. Dr. Ronnie-Leena Kilde, former chief of medical officer in Finland, report was September 25, 1999, stated, "The purpose of mind control is to disrupt memory, discredit people through aberrant behavior, to make them insane, or to commit suicide or murder. Microwave mind control with non-lethal weapons is the biggest crime in the history of mankind against a population of planet Earth. It must be stopped by all peoples of this globe. If you are targeted, the people orchestrating this are trying to murder you. But they would be just as happy if you went postal. In the event they meet their objective and murder-suicide occurs. When addressing family that have been brought into the investigation, hypothetically, they can say something similar to the following. 'We're so sorry, sir. It looks like he was more unstable than we thought. Did he mention anything about suicide? We're so sorry. This never happens. Did you notice a change in his behavior? We wish we would have known. This is so tragic. Is there anything we can do for you?' For reasons of national security, this person's family can say nothing of the official investigation or they'll be faced with jail time. And of course, if these people did not have the capacity to know that they were being lied to in the first place, they will probably not suspect that these government perpetrators make a living out of this. It is my belief that this trap has been used many times and is being used on targeted people and their families across North America." Dr. Loren Moret, former City of Berkeley Environmental Commissioner, has spoken extensively on this type of state-sponsored harassment. On August 8, 2005, she appeared on 102.7 FM Vancouver Radio. The subject of the interview was electromagnetic weapons, the technology of political control. Below is a quote from that interview. "What we've studied and reported and identified is that neighbors are contacted and co-opted. Members of the target's family are co-opted. The purpose is to completely isolate and remove all social support, economic support, and if possible, to drive these targets to suicide. Just as mobbing is done," that's the statement, now he's back writing, "just as mobbing is done with the intention to represent the departure of a person from the workplace as their own choice, organized stalking is used to represent the departure, suicide or active violence of a person under mind control as their own choice. This is legal murder. Do you understand? This is legal murder. Legal. Orchestrated by the intelligence community, which uses civilians to carry out the crime. I told you this was the hidden evil." Symptoms a person may experience. I have, other symptoms and, isolation, frequent or longer sick leave, disability at work, persistent anxiety, uncontrolled acting out, violence directed at third parties, other severe illnesses, severe panic attacks, TIAs I've had heart palpitations, tachycardia, I've had thyroid problems for years on meds and then they disappeared. You tell me how that happens. And this was on 7/14/2024. Other symptoms and situations people have reported: forced onto medication for anxiety, depression, imprisonment, forced into mental hospitals, or detox. My mom came over one day because I was drunk, which she knew I was drinking. And I'm not going to say why I became an alcoholic, and I'm not using it as an excuse or blaming anybody. That was my choice to keep picking up the bottle, to hide it. Told me that if I didn't go to the hospital with them, her and my stepfather, that they were going to call the ambulance to my house. So I got there, the social workers came down, my mom and dad were there, and they're probably calling everybody saying I overdosed or whatever, which was not the truth. She asked me, so I willingly went with my mom. Because you're supposed to listen to your mom, right? Kind of, I mean. I was brought to detox down by Abbott. I wasn't even drunk when I got there. I had no alcohol in my system. They tested you there. At the hospital, I think I was a 0.12 or something like that. So I had to go to detox for that? Why would my mom, please? So then, I don't know what was going on. The social workers were running around. They were doing drug tests on me. I had no drugs in my system. I mean, it was just bizarre. Homelessness, staged accidents or deaths. Prolonged stress can apparently cause a miscarriage. Some people what happened to Lindsay? I came home one day and Larry was sitting in the ottoman. He goes, Karen, Lindsay's in the hospital. I'm like, what? For one, I didn't even know Lindsay was over. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't know, she's bleeding or something. So I called her and apparently she lost her baby. Now, what is she doing at my house? And the look on my ex's face was like, I was like, wow. I mean, I was like, what? And then I called her, talked to her, of course. And that's why they use Lindsay Graber all the time. The V2K is every single person. So I'm like going, what's going on? And then I remember one time too, when, speaking of that, I think that was the same time I was sitting in the chair on the couch and my ex was in the ottoman and I'm getting new glasses. I have never seen my ex get so pissed off. I had a health insurance. Like, what is he worried about? Because I wanted a new pair of glasses? Because these were old? Yeah, I'm getting new glasses. Prolonged stress. Okay, so some people who have been stalked and harassed over a period of time have attributed their miscarriages to ongoing harassment. The mainstream media has still not picked up on the likelihood that mobbing, organized stalking, Myron Bay, look him up on YouTube. That's that black lawyer that actually posted 3 things on YouTube talking about his targeting and his voice to skull. Let's see. Some